Dak is expected to sign today. A little more than $31 million, the franchise tender. Now, listen, there's a lot of unknown with everything. It's funny. You want to jump into a topic that seems like it's pretty definitive, but it's really not even fully definitive because nobody knows what the future salary cap implications will be based on what we've gone through as a country. So the first layer to meaning, Dak Prescott, long-term deal. I mean, there's a lot up in the air here. Dallas is in a rough spot. You know that they want to keep him. Dak wants to get rightfully paid. And, Dallas has to try to navigate the known, which is what he's done, what he's put on film, and what the quarterback market is contractually thus far until Mahomes reestablishes it, and the unknown, which is probably a gutting of the salary cap. So it's positive news, but by no means is this a layup for the Dallas Cowboys and Dak to get this thing done by July 15th.
Yeah, no, I mean, here's the thing, BT. Dak Prescott believes that he is one of the best quarterbacks in the National Football League, and his people believe that he's one of the best quarterbacks in the National Football League. His people also know that he's playing for America's team, one of the most popular, and if not, it is the most valuable franchise in all of sports. I still believe it is. I know that the Manchester United was catching on their tails a little bit, but the Cowboys are the team. Everybody in the world knows who the Dallas Cowboys are. They know who their owner, Jerry Jones, is. So they know that revenue is there. But as you mentioned, they're constrained by the salary cap, and there's nothing that you can do about that. And so the Cowboys now they're between a rock and a hard place because as America's team, right, the team that everybody should know about, even if you hate them, you know about them, how can you not pay your quarterback who believes he's the best quarterback in the National Football League, not top dollar? And the reason you can is because of what you just laid out, BT. The salary cap's not permitting them to do that. And so this feels like, and I said this, I don't know, 6 months ago, 5 months ago, or whenever we knew that the franchise tag was more likely than not. This feels so much like Kirk Cousins, so much. And I've heard, commentators and Colin was talking about this earlier, and people have written this. This feels exactly like the scenario that the Washington Redskins had with Kirk Cousins, meaning you really like your quarterback so much so that you're going to franchise tag him, which is a big number. It's $31 million. Yep. That you might franchise him again, which is also another big number. You know what I mean? Not that they're going to, but they might. Just like the Redskins franchised Kirk Cousins twice. Yep. But you're never really sold. Like you want to extend the dating period instead of really being sold. And in some regards, that's unfair to Dak Prescott, but that's the financial reality that the world is in. The sports world is in right now. And I know he wants to play hardball, but the only way this is getting done is if he plays out this season on the franchise tag and goes and balls and takes him deep into the postseason and proves that he's that guy. You can say all you want, I'm the guy. His people can say all you want, I'm the guy. But until he does it, then the Dallas Cowboys aren't incentivized to pay him.
And listen, this thing's been sitting on the table since March 18th.
That's right.
So obviously there's been a lot to think about. You and I have dissected this from every conceivable angle, those that pertain directly to Dak, like what he's put on film, those that indirectly possibly impact future earnings, like what they paid to other players and, how their finances are a little bit out of whack with Lawrence and Cooper and Tyron Smith and Zeke and Zach Martin. They've got, I think, 5 players. I think the number is, 5 players over $20 million or 5 of the top 15 highest paid players in the NFL. The numbers are, a little punitive here. Now, that should never get in the way of marrying your franchise quarterback. But the point is that, listen, we all know he's good. That's long been put to rest. He's sensible. He's savvy. He's steady. He's a great leader. He's got a high IQ. His arm talent's okay. His leg talent is good. But you put the whole thing together, you got a very interesting product. But the issue is this. We could sit here for the next 2 or 3 years and dissect, almost 5,000 yards, pretty good touchdown-to-pick ratio, did this pretty well. Listen, until you go 13-3 and start playing into late January and eventually a Super Bowl, you're never going to be positioned as one of the greats. Like Brady's done it. Drew Brees has done it. Mahomes has done it. You got to do it if you want to get paid.
Yeah, and the biggest issue, which seems to be holding this up, just for clarity's sake, is Dak wants a 4-year deal. Basically, he wants to double dip. He wants to get it now, and then when he's 4 years from now, after he's proven it again, he wants to go be, again, the highest paid player in the National Football League, which doesn't happen often, right? I mean, I think it happened for Aaron Rodgers. He hit it twice. Russell Wilson, I can't remember if his initial deal was
I don't think Russell's done it twice.
I don't think he has either. So, but my point is, it doesn't happen that often.
Mm-hmm.
And so Dak Prescott wants a short deal so that when he's 30 years old or 32, 31 years old, that he can hit it again and go make another however many million he's going to make. Probably at that point, it's probably going to be $40+ million a year. Whereas the Cowboys want a 5-year deal, and the reason that the Cowboys want a 5-year deal is because after that 5 years, they know that they have him for another year because they can just franchise him again.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is a divide. This is Dak wanting a double dip, but the Cowboys not fully sold yet on whether or not he's their guy for an extended period of time.
And that's a big problem. That almost sounds like baseball's issues here, where it's not just one thing. It's not just like, well, if we can bridge this gap of disconnect, then everything else falls into place. It's not necessarily true. Even if they agree on the average annual value, to Tiki's point, the increment of the contract is still a big impediment. So, you got multiple moving parts here. I want to read something for you, too. This is a source on let's see. This is from ESPN, one source on the pressure the Cowboys are looking at now. So, quote, there are problems the second year because the salary cap's going to crash. I mentioned this before. Unless there's an intermediate deal, they would have to gut their team to keep him then. So there's even more incentive for Dallas to do a long-term deal with Dak because of the coronavirus and where the cap might be next year.
Like win a championship this year. Basically, That's what they're saying, right?
So, yeah, pretty much. So it's how much you going to pay him each year. Are you going 4 or 5 years? And what is the carnage of the coronavirus and the global economic state?
Yeah, and so
that's a lot to worry about.
Seriously ask Cowboys fans this: Do you want Dak Prescott so badly?
That's
I think this is what Jerry Jones is gambling upon.
Yeah.
Do you seriously want Dak Prescott so badly that you're going to risk us having to cut ties with almost every other about to be paid good player on our team? Is that what you want? I mean, they probably got to find a way to trade Amari Cooper. Not really, but you know what I mean. But
I'll answer it as a non-Cowboys fan, just as a football observer and a football fan. The answer is no.
No, of course not. We've seen what that does, BT. We saw it with the Ravens, right? It was obvious, right? They win a championship. Joe Flacco, as he deserves, he got paid.
Mm-hmm.
Where did they go? They went straight downhill right after that.
Same with Eli.
There were other circumstances. The same thing happened with Eli when he got his second deal, which was I forget at the time, but it was a big one. It was $100+ million.
Was it 2012? Does that sound about right?
It sounds about right. They either tore it up or added years onto it. But it happens, man. You can't hang on to the talent that you need to be a contender year in and year out. And this is why when you look at teams like the Patriots, you just respect how they were able to create a contender without paying top dollar.
Mm-hmm.
And now what we're seeing with these teams that have quarterbacks that want all the loot, right? They want to be paid what they're worth. Give me what I'm worth, right? When you've got that scenario going on with your quarterback, you can't have sustained success. You can have maybe a year, maybe 2, but ultimately you got to start cutting bait, and that's just not where you want to be if you're the Dallas Cowboys right now, and not fully sold on Dak Prescott being your guy for 10 years.
Listen, this is how I look at it. If you are Aaron Rodgers a couple of years back, if you are, and it's a short list, we don't need to rifle through the names, but it is very short. If you're one of those guys, which, let's be honest, Dak Prescott is not, and based on, and again, Tiki and I are huge Dak Prescott fans, but if you want to assign the proper tier, there's nothing to dissect. He's not tier 1, and he might not ever be there. In terms of just inherent God-given throwing ability and talent, he's not on that list, okay? And there's no off-season regimen that gets you there. You either have it or you don't. So the question is, if you don't view the guy And listen, this could apply to Darnold in 2 years, Josh Allen in 2 years, Lamar Jackson if he died.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody,
Daniel Jones,
really.
It could be anybody. And
Daniel Jones for the Giants?
We're keeping it real. Daniel Jones might not be the guy. I hope the hell he is.
Sure.
But if he's not,
yep.
in 3 years, we're going to make a determination. We'll have this exact same conversation about
what you got to do. I think we all expect, maybe me a little bit more than most, and maybe me certainly more than Tiki, but I think Kyler Murray is going to be in the fringe of the MVP race this year. I said that on last week's show, one of our shows here on Tiki and Tierney. If I'm dead wrong, the Cardinals have a lot to dissect in a couple of years and discuss and juggle. If you're not an elevator, like think about this, and this is the primary point. If you're going to have to begin snipping away at the corners of the roster, right, those guys that are deemed, not that you want to get rid of them, but out of necessity, for financial solvency, to sign somebody like Dak. If you're going to start doing that, you've got to ask yourself the question, all right, the person we're making these concessions for, are they great enough to mask or overcome some of the deficiencies that will invariably crop up on our radar because of what we are losing based on paying this person? And the answer to Dak is no. For me, the answer is no.
Yeah.
And I like the guy, but the answer is no.
Look, he's been the starter for 4 years now. We just haven't seen it yet, right? And so at the end of the day, when you look at the Tom Bradys of the world, doesn't matter who you put around him, he's elevating that guy. Right? I mean, hell, Julian Edelman, people were saying he was a Hall of Famer a couple of years ago, right? Same thing can be said about Aaron Rodgers. You put good talent, not elite Hall of Fame talent, you put good talent around him, look where they go. Russell Wilson. Who is the Hall of Famer that he's, other than Marshawn, who's on the borderline, but who's the Hall of Famer wide receiver that Russell Wilson has played for?
He's going to make Metcalf into one.
Yeah, maybe so far. But seriously, that's the point. And so when you go through these moments, and this happens for every franchise, where you hit the you know what, right? You hit the skids. Who's picking you back up out of that and lifting you and carrying you because he makes everybody around you better? Now, Dak could evolve into that, maybe. The Cowboys haven't seen it yet, and that's why he's not getting the deal that he wants.
Listen, and I'm with you on that, T, clearly. When you begin to cut away at the roster, you're going to be winning a lot of, 37. You're going to try to win 37, 34, 38, 35. Why? Because your nickel corner you can no longer afford. Your fourth linebacker, who you really like, who is a galvanizer, he's got to go. Maybe you have a couple of safeties, and one is not like Jamal Adams, kind of a safety, but a good player, quietly. Pro Football Focus has him rated pretty highly. He makes plays even if he's not very popular. Guess what? Somebody outbid you. He's got to go. Suddenly the defense is a shell. The offensive line erodes because you can't keep the big horses, give them the big money. And you better have a guy that can either walk into an opposing stadium, all right? I don't care the month, but particularly in January, and put up a 30 spot based on just sheer God-given gifts, okay? To overcome a lot. And again, I think you know where I stand by now. I don't need to keep hammering it home. I don't think Dak is that guy.